Hi guys, welcome to Radiation Protection. I like to call it a crash course. In this PowerPoint, we'll be discussing what actually is radiation, along with how do we protect ourselves from excess radiation, and what we could use when treating a patient to protect not only us, but the patient as well. We'll get into some regulation agencies and what we use to keep ourselves safe, and let's get into it. What is radiation? Radiation is energy released in the form of a particle or an electromagnetic wave. Although there are different types of radiation, such as radon gas, cosmic rays, stuff from outer space, medical x-rays, or radioisotopes, there are also ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. When becoming a radiation therapist, there's a few things that you need to know. Starting off with a radiation oncologist, who is the doctor who reviews the medical findings of the patient and discusses what treatment will be beneficial for them with the radiation. In radiation therapy, we're using the high dose of radiation to kill the cancers and shrink the tumor of the patient. Being a radiation therapist, we work under the radiation oncologist with a team of other people who help do the simulation, the treatment, and who are working with the patient daily to get them the best treatment possible. So here I posted a picture of who works under the radiation oncologist, like that team aspect of who you'll be working with on a day-to-day basis for each patient. So you have the radiation physicist, the dosimetrist, the therapist, which we are, along with the nurses, some supporting staff, and the clerical staff members. The nurses come into play a lot when we're starting to do a new sim on a patient. They usually check the patient's vitals, along with note anything that's going on with the patient before their treatment. So like I brought up in the beginning, what is radiation? I explained that there are a few different sources. The ones I did mention were ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. Although they're not in this slide, they are still very important. Ionizing radiation is a conversion of atoms to ions, which is the amount of energy transferred to electrons in biological tissue. Some examples are X-rays, gamma rays, and high-energy UV radiation. Whereas non-ionizing radiation is visible light, microwaves, and radio waves. Some examples of non-ionizing radiation are MRIs and ultrasound, and we use those a lot when checking patients before their treatment actually begins. So when you're talking about natural radiation, it's radiation that comes from the Earth. So you could be talking about radon, which is one of the biggest contributors to natural background radiation, and it was seen a lot more back in the day, but now we have some tools to kind of monitor what radon is being produced around us. Man-made radiation, think about everyone likes to go on vacation. A lot of those vacations require going on an airplane. Air travel is a huge part of man-made radiation. Medical radiation, when you go in for some dental work or just you broke a bone and you have to do some x-rays, that counts as medical radiation. Your body's being exposed to some sort of radiation to a certain extent, all while being necessary for treatment of whatever may be going on for you. And then some internal radiation is made up of radionuclides and radioactive atoms, which make up a little tiny small percent of the body tissue, which would be alpha particles, beta particles, neutrons, positrons. You get the gist. Now, when talking about ways that we want to stay protected during treatment, the first thing that comes to mind, ALARA. ALARA stands for as low as reasonably achievable. We want to be exposed to the least amount of radiation possible when treating a patient. Another thing that can go hand in hand with ALARA is abbreviated to ORP, which stands for Optimization for Radiation Protection. This is where we're really trying to just minimize all excess radiation that isn't needed during any time. ALARA is made up of 3 cardinal rules: time, distance, and shielding. Time, simple. You want to reduce the amount of time spent near a radioactive source. The less time, the better. The less time you're near the radioactive source, the less exposure you'll have, the safer you'll be. Distance, rule number 2, You want to keep as much distance from between you and the radioactive source as possible. Simple, clear as day. And shielding. Shielding is the same thing. We want to keep a shield between us and the radioactive source. So if that means we're using any type of device such as a piece of paper for some particles or lead to keep us safe, we're keeping that balance and distance and shield between us and the radioactive source to protect the patient. Like I mentioned, lead is the most preferred shielding material because it has such a high atomic number, keeping the radiation to not go through it. So here is just a picture, just a summary of ALARA. Like I said, for time, less time spent near radioactive source, the less radiation received. Distance, greater the distance from the source, less radiation received. And shielding, behind shielding from source, exposes you less. Now, radiation signs. We see these signs a lot and probably thought nothing of it until now you're realizing, oh, we should probably pay some mind to these. So, radiation signs are in most hospitals, most diagnostic areas, and they are showing us, okay, we need to be careful. Most signs you'll see, and I've seen a lot at the hospital that I'm now currently doing my rotation at, is caution, X-ray radiation. Although the picture shows that the sign is in yellow and black, I have seen signs for caution X-ray radiation in yellow with red writing. Now, you see the X-rays on sign is white with red. This is because when the X-ray sign is on, there's a light that goes off and the red is highlighted. It's magnified. It's showing people like, oh, nope, stay clear, red light. Red means stop. We need to stop and we can't go into that room. The X-ray sign is on when the X-ray is on. You don't want to be in the room when there's any radiation on. You want to stay clear. The doors will shut and you'll be kept out. Let's see. A general radiation warning sign uses the indication for potential exposure that may exceed 0.05 millisieverts, so a super small amount, to 30 cm from a source of radiation. So, when you see these signs and you see they're lit up, stay clear of that room. Do not go in. Now, we're getting into regulatory agencies. Now, these agencies are the people who impose the rules. They're the people that we follow what they say, and they know what's best in a matter of ways. So, the NRC, what used to be known as the Atomic Energy Commission. They supervise the design and working mechanisms of nuclear power plants, the production of nuclear fuel, and handling of extended fuel. They also control the manufacturing and use of radioactive products produced in nuclear reactors. Now, you'll see under the NRC is agreement states. Agreement states, even though there are 50 states in the United States, only 37 are agreement states. These states enforce radiation protection regulations through respective health departments. So, these 37 states follow the same rules that the NRC puts out. There are 12 other states that are not following these yet, and this means that they're not regulated by the government. They do still have rules that they need to follow. They just don't follow all the rules we do to that extent. Some other regulatory agencies are the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, environmental. They're protecting us from the radiation that is in the environment. Then we have the FDA, also known as the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, who regulates design and manufacturing of electronic products, medical devices, including the X-rays and linear accelerators. And then finally, we have OSHA, which is Occupational Safety and Health Administration. They're a monitoring agency in place of employment predominantly in industries. The OSHA is also responsible for employees' right to know in regards to workplace hazards. Workers need to know what's going on at their jobs, if it's a risk to them or not. Now, the NCRP, also known as the National Council of Radiation Protection and Measurement. This is a non-governmental, non-profit, private corporation which was started by Congress in 1964. They provide recommendations to improve radiation safety protocols. they are, and one's in charge of making the assumptions and regulations on how much radiation we should be receiving, the depth of which we are exposed to, and how we monitor what is actually going into our bodies, radiation-wise. The NCRP, like I said, is responsible for recommendations. They recommend dose limits for occupational exposure. So when you're working as a radiation therapist, you are allowed to receive up to 50 millisieverts of radiation per year. Now, me being a student, although I am working in a radiation therapy area, being at the hospital, I'm only allowed to receive 1 millisieverts of radiation, which is the same as the general public. Once I get my license and I'm starting to work in a hospital, I will be allowed to receive that same 50 millisieverts of radiation per year. These limits are based on estimates of the risk of fatal cancer and assessment of the risk that should be tolerated by workers who are exposed and the general public and what they are allowed to be exposed to. So now that we know what we're allowed to be exposed to, let's discuss some ways that we can protect ourselves and monitor what we're being exposed to, which is where dosimeters come in. A dosimeter is a badge that does not protect us, but it does monitor what we're being exposed to. So the badge will detect high energy beta, gamma, and X-ray radiation. Dosimeters are required for any individual who will receive 10% of their maximal predictable dose, which is that 50% that 50 millisieverts that we were talking about. So although there are more than these 2 dosimeters that we use, let's start talking about these and then I'll add some more at the end. So the OSL is an optical stimulated luminescent dosimeter, which is a newer dosimeter that we're using. It's made up of aluminum oxide and is used a laser to be read. These can be worn for up to a year, however, we change them out every month and they get sent out to be read. That way we can monitor how much radiation we've been exposed to. The TLD is the thermoluminescent dosimeter, which is made of lithium fluoride, and it's displayed in a crystal lattice. Now, the TLD can be reset and reused, however, it cannot be reanalyzed, so once it's read the first time, it can't be read again, whereas the OSL cannot be reused. Then, although I said wasn't added, we also have other dosimeters that we can use, and they are the pocket ionization chamber. It is made out of quartz fiber, and it's very sensitive. However, you do get an instant analysis from it, and it is really great. However, it also looks like a pen. It's not like an actual badge. This is what the OSL actually looks like. And then we actually also have a digital ionization chamber, which again, highly sensitive, can be reset and reused like the TLD, and it has data storage, so it is better than that. The Dosimeter Report is a report that carries with you your entire life as a radiation therapist. It monitors your exposure. It includes a list of things such as the recent time period, the quarterly period, annually period, and your lifetime cumulative dose, which shows the deep levels, the shallow levels, and the lens of the eye exposure. Here's just a picture of the Dosimeter Report. And now, finally, some ways to protect ourselves from excess radiation. 1, practicing ALARA, like we said, time, distance, shielding, keeping that all to a minimum. Then we have wearing dosimeters. We have door interlocks, which the machine shuts off as soon as the door is open. I've seen it in person, and it's actually insane how quick it acknowledges. Then we have safety edges. We have the warning signs, warning lights, and mazes to keep the radiation to a minimum. And to protect patients, the same thing, practicing ALARA. Another big thing is keeping the patient only in the room when necessary. If they're not being treated, they're not in there. Another thing to discuss is the Image Gently campaign. Although it hasn't been discussed in the PowerPoint yet, it's just to keep awareness of when you're treating a child and you're treating an adult, they need different amounts of radiation. Not every person gets the same amount of radiation. And here are my sources. Thanks, guys.